What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today it seems like I gotta admit that I was completely wrong about Battlefield 5. As many of you who have been subscribed for a bit know, I was actually very excited for this game running up to the beta because I am a huge fan of two things: World War II era shooters and the Battlefield franchise. This is a series that manages to make some really unique feeling to every firefight. They managed to make it where even if you don't particularly care about a certain era or its weaponry, you can still feel excitement as you try and rush that next big point or blow up that next opponent. But now, I'm actually in utter shock as to how bad this beta is. I've played about 7 hours of it so far, and I'm really taken aback because it seems like every single aspect of it is screwed up in some way. So let's talk about what this beta is. Essentially, we're getting the 4 primary classes: Medic, Assault, Sniper, and Support at our disposal, to give us a chance to have a real good wide variety of everything that'll be in the final game. But here's the issue: it doesn't seem like the classes are balanced the way they once were. At launch, Battlefield 1 certainly had some problems when it came to the Sniper class being overpowered, but here it seems like they nerfed them to the point at which they're basically useless. A major thing that has completely changed the element of this combat is that now anybody can revive people simply by walking up to a dead body and holding the action button, which therefore makes the medic class not nearly as useful. And also, they have essentially removed tagging targets. It has been basically burned out of the entire project, and this is very dumbfounding to me. Originally, in the other Battlefield games, you could click down a thumbstick and actually tag a target on the map at any distance, making it where if you saw a tank trying to roll in, or you saw somebody off in the distance who had a heavy rocket launcher and you were worried about them sneaking up, you could at least call out that opponent. That way other people knew to keep an eye on them, and this has now been removed, and what instead you have is you can only mark people if they're way in your face, and even then it's only going to highlight them to nearby people. You know, so many of these changes just seem like things that are trying to fix an issue that didn't exist. Like, going back to the revives, getting healed in the original Battlefield games wasn't much of an issue because, well, everybody just kind of responds so quick. Even if somebody didn't pick you up while you were trying to defend a point, there was a good chance that you'd be able to respawn and charge back to there in time to still try and help your teammates out. Whereas here, it seems like they have dramatically extended the time it takes to respawn to about 10 seconds instead of 3, in a weird effort to try and force you to revive your teammates. This so clearly is one of those stupid times where a developer is inventing a problem in order to cure it. But moving on a little bit, let's talk about the 2 maps and 2 modes we have access to in this beta, because I actually think that both of these are well designed. Let's start off by talking about Arctic Fjord, because this is the map that I actually enjoyed a bunch. It has a really interesting feeling to it that really reminds me of classic Battlefield games in the absolute essential way that it needs to work, which is that it has lots of winding paths and really open areas for where you need it, making sort of a good mix of things that have areas where snipers can excel and also lots of close quarter parts where you can hide in a house and try and blow people up. And I think that this map is really smart because they ended up using it for both of the game modes, Conquest and the newly introduced Grand Operations. Now, let's talk about Grand Operations because I feel like it really highlights why this fjord is so awesome. So Grand Operations is a multi-phase mode that's just been introduced here, and the way it works is that at the start, the enemy team is parachuting in. There's a bunch of bombers that are flying over every 60 seconds or so and dumping out a giant new payload of everybody who's already died. It's basically a more wide-ranging and a little bit more intricate respawn system. But there's a cool quirk to this, which is that at the very start of the map, you can actually choose to charge down to the beachfront and try and shoot these people down as they're parachuting to the ground and out out in the open, or man these turrets, which are heavy artillery, to try and shoot the planes down before they can dump their payload. And I think that this is really cool and reminds me of the cool mix of vehicle and ground combat that made Battlefield famous in the first place. Once people start actually touching down though, then is the real gameplay, the part that's actually more minute to minute and more intense. So these people are trying to charge up and blow up the artillery turrets. If they manage to destroy each of their objectives, they move on to the next checkpoint. Defending this is surprisingly hard. Even though these guys are running straight at you over flat ground with only a few little trees and stuff to hide behind, good coordination will eventually win. They outnumber you so much, and your respawn point is about a mile up the road, making it where every time they manage to strike one of your people down, if you can't respawn on a teammate, you're going to be jogging back to the front lines when you make each mistake. And I think that this is really good balancing, and it really kind of highlighted stuff that I liked about the Arctic Fjord, which is that it has assault bunkers up on the hill, and also some great stuff where when you get pushed back and you're up in the houses, you can really see how destructible stuff is. At one point, I was trying to see if I could sneak up directly to the edge of the enemy lines and see if I could maybe shoot somebody in the back as they're running into battle, and while I was in this house, it started being literally blown apart brick by brick all around me, and it was really fascinating because I was really freaking out. I was like, okay, if this thing crushes down on top of me, I will die, of course, but if I manage to survive this, I can sneak up behind people and start taking people out. I can end up stopping their entire assault for at least 20 seconds single-handedly and buy my team a lot of time to try and regroup. These are the times that I think that Battlefield 5 is close to awesome. You see, if I just want to be completely frank here for a second, a big issue is the fact that nothing in Battlefield 5 ever feels stark and awake and alive. So much of this game just feels like it's asleep. There is a clunkiness to the motion and to the areas that I can or can't try and hide in, or times where I'm trying to unlock that next gun so I can try and change up the dynamic of how a particular class plays. Almost every aspect of this game seems like they sketched it out on a chalkboard in a big meeting, put it into this game, and then never bothered to balance it. There are times where you end up getting into like a tank that spawned on a street that is so full of random junk you can't even drive it. What is the point of that? Or areas where I'm actually in a spot where I can drop down on the bottom of this bridge and actually sneak up behind a bunch of opponents and get a bunch of very easy kills. And it's one of those things where, yes, this is partially the fact that I'm a very good player, but it also just kind of brings to light of why bother making a multi-layered bridge that doesn't let you have tons of different areas to try and shoot people that are above and below you. I feel like the best shooters I've ever played, and I've beaten thousands of them, are the ones that constantly challenge you to look at every single one in multiple angles. Just as a random example, think about back to Modern Warfare 2. When that Call of Duty came out, people were really blown away that every house had an equivalent number of entrances and exits. It wasn't like you could just ever camp in an attic and shoot people. If there was a spot you could hide, there would also be a separate spot that was specifically built in order to counteract that. Every time I was playing this game, in all the hours with it, it kept seeming like so much of this stuff didn't have a follow-through to its examples, to its ideas. So many parts of this just ended up frustrating me because I'd end up stuck on a random texture that didn't matter, or laying down on a train car in the edge of a map that looked really cool but obviously served no purpose. Battlefield 5 is a game that I was very excited for until I started playing it. Even as I managed to unlock more stuff, customize my characters to the way I liked, it didn't ever really seem to have that feeling. Battlefield 1 was terrific because it made me terrified. It established a sense of desperation, the fact that you are a single soldier in a war that you're not meant to survive. Every single person that has their boots on the ground is there to try and die in an effort to save something. Either a teammate, their country, or just that round to help your teammates out. And Battlefield 5 doesn't have that. Never for a second did I feel like I was part of the action, instead of just another one of thousands and thousands of players sitting alone with a controller in their hands, always slightly bored. but these have just been my thoughts on the Battlefield 5 beta, and I will be reviewing the full game when it comes out because it just got a giant delay. They now have an opportunity to try and fix so many of these glaring flaws. But what did you think about this? Did you give it a shot? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Do me a giant favor, share this video somewhere, give it a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. How did they mess this up? My God! Oh, hey. I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.